You say, okay, I have a lot of money, but you have no money unless you take profits.
When the first ever spot ETF was created for gold 10x.
And the only thing I really knew was Bitcoin at the time, so I just invested very heavily into that. Rode it all the way up.
What's up?
My name is Jeff. Even the creators have said it's going to be the predecessor of CBDC.
What that taught me was that I need to be self-sufficient.
A solid DCA investment strategy, and pretend the red sell button doesn't even exist.
Well, aloha, degenerates, ladies and germs, boys and girls, ducks and squirrels. We are live, bringing you today our special guest, my mother, Mrs. Kristine Stevenson, enrolled agent in the IRS. Today, we're going to be talking about how taxes and small business ownership and just some general better life tips for finances. We're going to be talking about all that for you guys here. Before we get into any of that, I'm going to run through a quick little bio of who this lady is, and then we'll introduce the rest of our panel the usual way, round robin style. But real quick, Kristine Stevenson is an author, speaker, financial coach, radio show host, and IRS enrolled agent who helps individuals and businesses understand how to avoid trouble with the IRS. Kristine is passionate about helping the first-time self-employed and small business owner master the basic systems and processes necessary to start their business off on the right foot. So, that being said, Mother, would you like to give yourself a quick little introduction to the folks at home? And then after you're done, why don't you go ahead and I'll throw it on over to Brendan and then Nate and then Mrs. McGettit. But Mom, why don't you start us off? Who are you? What do you do? You are muted, Mother. Go ahead and hit that that little mute button on the bottom corner.
Got it. Thank you. I should know better than that. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share some wisdom and knowledge and tax tidbits and tricks and things to avoid trouble with the IRS. A little bit about me. I did spend 7 years at the IRS in Austin, Texas, learned a lot, spoke with thousands of people, literally handled tens of thousands of tax returns crossing my desk, many of them from small business owners. Those are Schedule C filers. Learned lots, gave a lot of information and a way to help people avoid trouble with the IRS. I'm also a finance coach. I work with individuals and small businesses. I see a lot of small business owners making the same mistakes in their business over and over and over again, which led to the writing of the book, How to Avoid Trouble with the IRS, the 10 Best Tax Tips for the Self-Employed Gig Worker, Independent Contractor. And these are simple things, basic things. I don't get into the complicated S Corp, C Corp, multi-partnership type thing, because so many people have problems even with the basics. So that's where I live and thrive in that basic space. And so I wrote this book, and gosh, being a finance coach, I see a lot of people that have general trouble with their money, forget being in business. They don't know how to create a budget. They're in debt up to their eyeballs and can't figure out how to get out, or they're trying to figure out, how do I save for college or retirement, or I want to retire at age 50 or 45, part of the FIRE movement. So we talk about things and how can you get there? What are you doing with your money now? What's been working? What's not been working? Let's fix those things. So these are all things I've been doing the last 6 or 7 years and helping people out. And I'm going to help everyone out here on the podcast tonight. So that's a little bit about me.
Excellent. Thank you, Mother. We also have Brendan in the house. Brendan, what's going on, bro? You've been gone for quite a while now. How is Ireland?
I have, man. It's been a while. I miss being on stream. I miss everybody. Miss the community. I've been live in the chats, but Ireland was great. I only have a little bit of Irish blood on my mom's side. She's mostly English, and then probably her second most heritage is Irish, so I only have a couple family members there. But honestly, it was a great country with very nice people. Drove most of the country, tried to find the smallest pubs that played the most traditional music, and just tried to see how the people that are local there live. And I loved it. The people were very welcoming, very nice, and definitely recommend it to people that haven't been before. So yeah, happy to be back.
Hell yeah. Good
Hell
stuff,
yeah,
bro.
man.
Nice
You're
to have you
lucky.
back. Nate, go
I
ahead.
know, I was so jealous of you. Because you know me, I'm a Irish Viking, right? So that's all my blood is around that area, and I'm just like, God, there you went there. God, I want to go.
But now when you go, I have you know, I can tell you where to go. I can tell you what to do.
All
So
right.
it's actually a blessing in disguise.
Heck yeah. Alrighty. Well, yeah, I'm the ascending man, Nate McGettit. I've decided Tuesday I'm just gonna pick a topic that I'm really into right now, which is the AI. So I'm just gonna go with that. But yeah, let's go ahead and get to the show here. After introducing Mrs. McGettit, my lovely woman. But Kristine, I'm glad to have you on the show here. I can't wait to kind of pick your brain a little bit about kind of the wisdom that you've gotten over the years, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Awesome.
And then finally, we have our producer here as well, Mrs. McGettit. Mrs. McGettit, how are you doing? Feeling better, I hope.
Almost. I still got a little bit of the voice thing going on. So, but other than that, I woke up today and my throat didn't hurt anymore, and I was like, oh, good, I don't need to go to the hospital. I was starting to get really worried. It's been like a month now of just like weird little pains in the throat, and I'm like, okay, that's not normal. But other than that, doing pretty good. We had a wonderful Christmas, so that was a lot of fun. As most of you know, I've never been on any stream other than a book club, so this is new for me. So, hi! I really wanted to be here today to have a chance to actually sit down and talk with a published author. So, I'm really excited. A little bit anxious too, though.
Well, it's all good. We're glad to have you here. All right. Excellent. Well, without further ado, Mom, you are a published author. You I'm reading your little
Indeed.
bio here that you sent me in August of 2022. You sat up in bed at midnight and announced to Joe, your husband, I'm writing a book. And then 4 weeks later, 80% of your book was written. And by April of 2022, How to Avoid Trouble with the IRS, 10 Best Tax Tips for the Self-Employed, Gig Worker, and Indie Contractor became an instant Amazon #1 hot new release. And by November 2022, the book was made available on all major audiobook platforms. So now, Mom, we just did, like, not but a few days ago, we just did a review. Nate, Mrs. McGettit, Zenith, and I, we just reviewed your book. We went through all the little details and went through all the stuff. It's kind of funny because we're like the only ones on the panel that don't own small businesses. So it was super amusing going through the book and being like, oh, this is great. Like, we got to table all this information for when we start our own gig after we get super rich and famous in the cryptosphere and everything. But this is fantastic. So can you kind of walk us through the process of what, well, other than waking up in the middle of the night, but what inspired you to write this book on taxes and getting in trouble with the IRS and everything?
Great question. So I think the inspiration came in two parts. One, my time with the IRS, as I was saying earlier, 7 years there, a lot of time spent on the phone, hearing the same things over and over and over, same tax mistakes, basic stuff. So there was that. So I kind of tucked that away in my brain and, that's interesting, and life goes on. And then in the intervening years, I have worked for various online tax companies like H&R Block, TurboTax, TaxHawk, and I'm interacting with the public just like I did when I was at the IRS. And again, hearing the same things, the same questions over and over, and seeing the same mistakes people are making. This is interesting. Nothing has changed in the 10 or 15 years that I've been out of the IRS. And then I join online communities as a finance coach. And I'm in various platforms online, and I'm seeing these same questions, these same issues come up over and over again in these online platforms. I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to write this down. So literally sat up in bed. Oh, there's a mosquito here. Sorry. Sat up in bed and was like, I've got to write this book. So once that was like really set in my brain, I couldn't not write the book. It poured forth. It just came out. And as I said, I wrote about 80% of it in 2 weeks. It just was out. And then it took me, it's the 80-20 rule, 80% was done in 2 weeks. And then it took me, about, I don't know, 80 days or 80 months or 80 hours or whatever after that to write the last 20%. That was the hard part. So I wanted to get this out, give it to people, help them avoid trouble with the IRS, because now as a tax resolution specialist, I'm dealing with these people that pay me thousands of dollars to get them out of hot water with the IRS. And it was all avoidable, totally avoidable, if they would have done some of the basic things that I lay out in my book. So that was the inspiration, I guess.
That is. Oh, excuse me.
Did that choke you up?
Yeah. No, so she had made me coffee right before we went on stream. What an excellent mother, but I'm having trouble swallowing it apparently. But no, so excellent. So you had wrote this book essentially in 4 weeks, and that you said the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. What was the 20% that was missing when you wrote that book? Because it's basically the 10 tips, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
10 best tips.
The 10 best tips, right? So what was the rest? What was that? The 80%, and then the last 20% is just
the 20%. Honestly, if you've never written a book, for those out there that are interested in writing a book or thinking about it, the 20% that was the longest part for me was finding an editor, because I wanted it professionally edited. I'm not relying on, the Word, Microsoft Word to edit the thing. So finding and hiring the right editor for the book, and all the little nuanced things that go into creating book pages, the font size. Do you have little gewgaws and doodads that you put on a page, at the beginning of a chapter? What style of number do you want? Do you want numbers on your page? All these little detail things took a tremendous amount of time. And with an editor, I figured out, here's a tip for you. If you want to write a book and you send a chapter to your editor, you want to edit in real time with the editor, and you want to give your editor permission to go ahead and make commas and periods and basic grammar stuff. Just let them do it. This is their area of expertise. You don't need to approve every period or comma unless it changes the context of a sentence, but edit in real time. So those things took a lot of time. And my book, when I gave it to her, was like 95% written. And I'm a pretty good speller, and I understand context and flow, so it made it really easy for her to edit. Other people don't write as well, and so it takes longer for the editing process. But that was the other 20%, really, was the editing part.
It's fascinating. It's always the small things, right?
Yeah, delves in the details.
Yeah, I remember just like fixing up cars and all of that. It's like, okay, well, I got to change the brakes, but then it's always the little tiny, like, oh, you got this one nut that's stuck, and now that's going to take you.
I got to go buy a special tool just to,
exactly. Or you got to jimmy rig a bunch of tools together to create.
There you go, right? Yeah, same kind of thing with writing a book. So it's amazing how many little details go into it.
Well, that's actually, so that leads me perfectly into my next question. I'm going to presume that most of the audience who is not watching this stream right now has not watched the book. So without giving away too much of the information in the book, can we go over the 10 tips in sort of kind of maybe not extravagant detail, or maybe perhaps we can focus on some of the better ones. Do you have some preferential tips out of the book that you think, what would be the juiciest information?
Yes, that's a great question. Yeah. And I get when I'm on other podcasts, I get this a lot. Like, what are the top 2 or 3 tips that you would give someone? Okay. Yep. So number 1, oh my gosh, please open a business bank account. Do not funnel your business income and expenses through your personal account. A lot of people start off that way, and they may or may not mean to do that. And later, oh, I'll open a business account maybe later, and they don't do it. But that's one of the number 1 things, because when you funnel business money through your personal bank account, that's called commingling. And it's a big no-no with the IRS. Is it illegal? No. Is it bad business practice? Yes. And the IRS has an expectation that you will be making prudent and reasonable decisions in your business. So, number one, open a business bank account. And most people need to have an EIN for a financial institution. So it takes about 10 minutes to get an EIN on the IRS website. You can Google irs.gov EIN. And so you go through this process. In about 10 minutes, you have an EIN. And that EIN you take to your bank and give it to them, and then you open your business bank account. So that's the number one thing I would say. Number two, after that, I would say create an account with EFTPS, the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System. This too is free. Like getting an EIN is free. EFTPS.gov is free. And the purpose of this account, this thing that you are creating, is to get your money to the IRS quickly and easily. It's so easy to set up your account at EFTPS. You create it, you link it to the business bank account you created, and then you control how much and when you are sending money to the IRS. And in theory, you're sending money quarterly to the IRS if you're self-employed. So that would be like the top two. Open that business bank account and open an account with EFTPS. And I would say with the business bank account, ultimately, I would want you to have five accounts. And one of those accounts is actually a savings account. I want people to adopt a mindset of, I am saving money in this account specifically for taxes. That could be the IRS, that could be the state, that could be local, but open a savings account and get that money to the IRS through EFTPS. So those are the top two things I would say.
And if I can ask a quick question.
Absolutely.
To get an EIN number, essentially really all you need is your name, social security number. And would you have already had to have registered your business with your local town or county or state so that you are officially sort of have a DBA before you can set up an EIN number?
You don't need the DBA to set up or to get an EIN, because the EIN is primarily, it's going to be based on your social.
Okay.
Basically your name, address, and social. That's what the EIN is going to be for. With your county or city, you may need to go to your county and pay $50 and register your business as DBA, which is doing business as, for those of you that don't know. So that might be a county or a local thing. You may, if you want to get a little more formal and create an LLC, which I get that question a lot, you form an LLC with the state, and then you will need an EIN for sure. If you form an LLC, limited liability company.
Is there a benefit of having an LLC versus a DBA?
Yes. So your LLC, great question, limited liability. That's the key. You are limiting the liability to the business specifically. So if you do something crazy or wrong, or in this litigious, sue-happy society we live in, if you're sued, if your business is sued, in theory, it's only the value and what's in the business, the assets of the business, that is at risk versus you personally. So, is it 100% foolproof? Anybody can sue anybody at any time for anything. But the LLC limits the liability to the business assets.
Got it. So you're kind of protecting your own assets
Exactly.
by having an LLC, rather than giving you an opportunity to lose maybe your house or assets that are outside of what you considered your business because of maybe some mistakes that you made within your business.
Yeah. Great question. And here in Texas, it's $300 to form an LLC. So every state has their own fees and their own process.
That's good to know. I feel like, a lot of people these days are trying to start businesses and trying to, you have the internet, right? It's very easy to start a business. Yep. There's a lot of technology. It's very easy to start a business. But I think, and maybe you'd agree, maybe you can respond upon it if you think that it's necessary, but if you want to start a business, start it properly. Get the right avenues settled first before diving in to try to create revenue, because it's going to bite you in the butt later on if you don't get all of these things set up first.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's people mess up unintentionally all the time.
Yeah, that's something that you mentioned in your book, is as you kind of already said earlier in the show here, it's like you keep hearing the same things over and over and over, hence why you wrote the book. The thing that I specifically liked about the book is it's a very to the point and very kind of like step by step. Hey, make sure you know these little like checklists are checked off and everything, and especially for someone who really does not want to deal with any kind of sort of like tax anything when it comes to that. A little book with a checklist, and it is really nice for someone like me.
Yeah, that's your little boxes, like literally right in your book. You have permission. Check. These things are done. So, and again, this is the basic stuff. The basic stuff works. You can get complicated later on for sure.
Yeah, and you know the crazy thing too is that like what you were talking about with different accounts, that's exactly like crypto. Because one of the basic things that everybody needs to do is have multiple wallets. You have multiple wallets with different functions, right? You have like your vault wallet for the money that's just going to sit there. You've got the one where it's kind of your hot wallet, where if you're going to go LPing, farming, doing things like that, yielding, you would consistently use that one. That's most likely going to be the majority of your money, you know, the money that you move around. And then if you're like, hey, this is a brand new thing, it looks like it could, you know, do something, but I'm a little bit sketched out on if it's legit or not. Instead of having a drain all of your coins, you instead have this condom wallet, as we call it, and you put the exact amount of money that you want to go play with, right? You put it in
millions
there
and millions.
Yeah. Billions and billions.
You know us well. You know us well.
I have 3 sons. I live in the real world.
That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, no, it's great though, because it's such a simple rule to follow. People usually don't do it though, and it surprises the heck out of me that people never do these types of things. And so one of the big things that you talked about that I 100% agree with is keeping your funds separate. Right, keep them separate.
Yeah,
not a hard concept.
Yeah, you know, I meet business owners that have been smart people running businesses that are making, you know, 6-7 figures gross revenue, been doing business 15, 20 years, and they don't even do these simple things. And so now they're in hot water with the IRS because they failed to do some of these simple things. And it's really like, wow, how have you been in business this long and didn't know this? There's no judgment. I have a totally judgment-free zone, but it never ceases to amaze me that people aren't separating their money. Like basic concept. They don't know how to do it.
Mike in the chat had a question for you though.
Oh, okay.
He says, yeah. He no money, Mike. You got any pics of Will with hair?
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know. What's it worth to you, Mike?
That's my mother.
How many Bitcoin?
How many Bitcoin?
We got to see pictures of me with hair. There might be some in this room behind me. This is the old boys' room. I'm leaning on the bunk bed, and then there's another bed behind me. Me and my brothers would sleep in here back when we were wee lads.
Wee
and
lads.
Then, my sister had the main. Yeah, we call it the dungeon. So this is my streaming room when I come visit my mother. But no money, Mike. If you want to find pictures of me with hair, you could just go to my Facebook, find it in the description below. Do it at your own risk. There's a lot of stuff in there, a whole lot of content. You'll probably see some stuff that I was posting when I was like 13 years old. So keep that in mind. I didn't know a whole lot back then. But anyways, let's bring it back on topic here. We were talking about people not doing the simple things. That's a big theme of that's a very central point to what we try and focus on here in our podcast is doing the simple, easy, predictable things. You know, like that's one of the major like faults that people have with most of the stuff in their life, like that Pareto principle, like we were talking about earlier. About 80% of everyone's problems comes from just not following the basic advice, whether it's, you know, setting up that business account, brushing your teeth in the morning, making sure that you work out and eat healthy, like doing the simple things, having multiple wallets, custodying your own coins, just engaging in smart and simple concepts is the thing that a lot of people miss out on. And so if people just focus on a lot of the basic stuff and just really hone down on that, then a lot of the trickier stuff in life is way easier, and you have to worry about way less issues as things go on. I want to Miss McGettit, do you have any questions for my mother before we move on to the next topic over here? I want to give you a chance to say something if you got anything.
The only thing I have is more just a question of curiosity. I'm
Sure.
wondering, are you working on any other books at the moment?
Not at the moment, but interesting you ask, because I do have two ideas for 2024. One of them, I really want to, I don't know if it will be a book yet of some form, but like more like curriculum to help business owners like literally step through some of these things that I talk about in my first book. So building out a curriculum that's like, kind of fill in the blank type thing. I don't know, this concept in my head. And the other is I do a lot of tax work, and I have great clients. And sometimes the questions that come to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. Do you really think that, that this is possible, this question that you're asking me? So I was joking around with Will and my husband and my daughter earlier, the next book, might be, I don't know. I don't know if I should say the title. I might,
You can swear on our channel. It's fine.
oh, I'm not worried about the swearing part. I figured that out already, but
Mm.
but it's something like, 100, the top 100 stupid ass questions of the IRS, that people ask all the time, or something
I
like
love
that.
it.
And just, go through yes, no, yes, it just answer them all.
So it's kind of like those books like Taxes for Dummies types of things, or like
Yeah,
the Internet for Dummies, but this is like
IRS for dummies,
Taxes for Business Dumbasses.
something like that, but it's not to insult. Here's another thing about writing a book. You want a title that's going to catch someone's eye, so they pick up the book. That's the first step. Oh, look at this title. Oh, pick up 100 stupid ass questions people ask the IRS, or whatever. And so they pick up the book, and then they start reading it, and you draw them in, so you increase your potential that they'll purchase the book. So that's the purpose of a title.
And you're going to put a pretty face on the front of the book too, right?
There we go. That's right. Thank you. Ding, point.
So I
So
want
More
to
Money
take
Mike is asking if there's any tax loopholes that most can use but don't take advantage of.
I was going to I want to do a real quick disclaimer because we didn't do it in the beginning. Everything on the show is not financial advice, just like what Brendan's hat says. And also none of this is official tax advice. This is just general best practices. This is like, guidelines for you to live your behavior, but like you can't hold us liable for any tax problems that you have, because you guys are the ones that are filing your taxes, and you're responsible and have the authority and the accountability and all that, this, that, and the other thing. So with that being said, any tax loopholes that most of us can use but don't take advantage of. I suppose I will go ahead and turn that over to my mother now that we've got the disclaimers out of the way.
Excellent.
And everyone knows that they can't sue us.
So I would say, here's how I would answer that. I don't know if you're speaking from regular employed person type question or self-employed person. So first, I will speak from the self-employed person viewpoint of tax loopholes. One of the biggest things that newly self-employed people do not do, that is a huge potential deduction, is their travel expenses. Time spent traveling in the car, or travel in general, from wherever you work. Because I work from home. So every time I leave my home and I drive to see a client, or I drive to do some sort of business, I'm writing down the mileage. Mileage is a huge, huge deduction. This is true for, especially for people that are driving Uber or Lyft or DoorDash or any of those delivery type services. So that's a really big one. Track your mileage. That's a big loophole, if you want to use that word, to help yourself on your tax return. If you are an employee, one of the good things, best things you could do, if you have a retirement plan at work, contribute to your retirement plan. When you contribute to your retirement plan, you are setting money aside for the future, which is great, and you are lowering the amount of taxable income that's going to be reported on your tax return. So you're paying less tax overall on your money when you contribute to your retirement plan at work. So a lot of people don't do that. So that's my enrolled agent hat. As a financial coach, I might give you a little bit of a different answer. Stop contributing to retirement and pay off all your debt. If you want to get ahead, stop paying interest. There's a tax loophole, sort of, all the interest that you pay on the stuff you buy and you're financing it. Let me reframe this. How many hours are you spending at work just to pay the interest on the stuff you buy, like with credit cards? How much interest have you paid? How many hours of your life have you worked just to pay the interest? One of my clients, we figured out they have, in total, throughout their lifetime, they've paid about $500,000 of interest. Now, some of that was mortgage interest, in fairness, but again, $500,000 of interest. How many hours of life did it take to pay that much interest? So I would encourage you to take advantage of your retirement plan at work. That's a tax loophole if you want. If you make a lot of money and you're one of those high income earners, something you could do to help yourself, again, for the future, not so much on your tax return immediately, but in the long run, is contribute, make a non-deductible IRA contribution, and then immediately use the backdoor Roth strategy. Move that money over into a Roth IRA. So you're saving yourself some tax money on doing that. That's a really big thing that high income earners can often do. So those are a couple of things I would say to that.
Those are some good loopholes, and those are again mostly for small business owners. For those of you guys who, oh, thank you, Agent Jay. It's very, very kind of you. A quick shout out to all the folks in the chat. Actually, we got Moonpilled Rational Optics in here. We got Nate the Great. We got Agent Jay. We got Cassie Kelly. We got No Money Mike. Thank you guys for being. Oh, and we got JC as well. JC, welcome, welcome. It's good to see you. Thank you all for joining us tonight and watching the live. And those of you guys on the replay, shout out to you guys as well. What was I saying? What were we talking about just now?
Tax tips, yeah, loopholes and things like that people.
Oh yeah, loopholes. I'm not terribly fond of the word loopholes because this all like it's all basically just part of the tax code, right? It's
exactly.
all like these are rules that you can take advantage of. Excuse me. Loopholes makes it sound like, you know, you're sneaking in there and breaking the law. It's like, no, literally this stuff is coded in there. For those of you guys who want to go out there and learn the stuff, you can start a small business. Most small businesses fail. So if you're worried about losing money starting a small business, then like you can be like a consultant, or you can be an Uber driver, or you could be like a contract indie worker or something of that sort. You can start a super duper easy small business and just go about doing your daily life. And then, you know, you go meet with someone on the other side of town to stack some bricks up in front of their house, or to go, I don't know, file some papers, or maybe you're a courier. Maybe you deliver like organs to the hospital from another hospital in another state or something like that. You know, there's tons of super easy small businesses you guys can go out there and start. So that way you can take advantage of all of these. Man, I can't think of what would be a better word for loopholes. I can't think of.
Just it's not. You're just taking advantage of the law as it's written in the Internal Revenue Code. So
yeah,
loopholes is very common. So
that's one of the things that
loopholes are for a lot of people. Even those things like contributing to your retirement at work, your 401k. That's part of, you know, Section 401. That's where that came. That's a loophole. So if you're a teacher,
could call it advantages.
Tax
advantages.
Tax advantages.
That's a good. Yeah, I like that.
Tax strategies.
That's a good framing.
Tax strategy.
I know that that's one of the things Robert Kiyosaki talks about, and that's all I wanted to say. Brendan, go ahead. But Robert Kiyosaki talks about all this stuff a lot. Is setting yourself up to have as many advantages as possible. Go ahead, Brendan.
No, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm saying something super basic, but I would say that one other thing that you really need to consider, especially people that are investing in our channel, a lot of people that watch our content or people that are investors, is understanding the difference between short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains. And, you know, holding coins for a certain amount of time or holding investments for a certain amount of time may allow you to make more money than what it looks like if you want to sell them in a short term. So understanding the difference between your short-term and long-term taxable gains is really important, in my opinion.
Yes, and anything held less than a year is short-term. 1 year and over is long-term. That's the rule.
That's why I'm done buying right now.
Yeah. There you go.
Buy low, sell high.
Buy
Amen.
buy high, wait through the depression, get sad, sell at the very last minute, right before things skyrocket, and then you're just left crying in a puddle of tears.
You know what, Will? That sounds like a bad idea.
That's a terrible idea. Don't do it, everybody. That's a wonderful bad idea. All right, let me we got some great stream tonight. I'm just rolling through we got Moonpill taking notes, strategies, opportunities. Excellent work, ladies and germs. All right. So that, I don't even know what topic we were covering on there. I got a little bit out of my notes, but that's okay. Let's see.
Talking about the depression and
loopholes and
buying.
strategies. And things like that.
Yeah. Loopholes and strategies. Man, I know that I had something in that area, but that's okay. We're going to hop into actually, this came up. Me and my mom were discussing things earlier before the show. But Mom, I have a saying here from you. It's file early, file often, and file on paper. While we're talking about long and short term strategies and filing taxes with the IRS, what does file early, file often, and file on paper mean when it comes to IRS lingo?
And we need to have context on that. So when I was at the IRS, one of the departments I worked in, early in the not early at my time there, but early every year at the IRS. Right now, they're kind of closing down. It's the end of the year because they have to update all of their systems and incorporate all the new rules that are coming into the next tax filing season. So the IRS usually opens for filing maybe mid to late January. And so lots of people start to file early in the year. Now, this was a number of years ago because they wanted to get their refunds for earned income credit and child tax credit and some of those refundable credits. So they would file early while the IRS system still hadn't been perfected from the old year to the new year. And so they would file early, either electronically or literally like send their tax returns in the mail. And lots of people still paper file their tax returns. And they would come into the IRS in late January, early February, and we would process them. And they would kind of slip through the cracks, so to speak, and get their refunds early because all of the kinks and the bugs and things hadn't been worked through in the crossover from the old year to the new year. And so some things that might get caught slip through the cracks early on. And then as the season progresses, more and more things are caught and those returns are held and they're examined a little bit more closely before they're processed through the system. So the joke was, this is a joke, file early, file often, file on paper, because you're more likely to have your tax return slip through and get basically your refund faster. So that's the context, which is important to understand. I'm not necessarily recommending that, but that was just the fun little thing that we used to talk about out on the floor of the IRS.
So follow-up question to that. People filing digitally, is it because if you file digitally, essentially they have a program that will process that for the most part, and then a tax agent will look it over? But if you file on paper, someone literally has to read through every line of your return, and therefore they're mostly just going to like stamp it because they don't want to deal with it?
Not so much. No, not so much for the latter. To the former, when e-file, and e-file is now the preferred method, when the tax return first goes in, whether it's e-file or paper, it has to pass what's called a math error check. And if the math is all correct, boom, the computer is doing that instantaneously on a basic tax return that's e-filed, or even a more complex tax return. It meets several criteria. And if it's mathematically accurate, shoot, off it goes. On a paper tax return, someone has to key that in, every line of information. So the opportunity for error increases just because the human being is keying in this information, but someone has to look at that. So all the information is keyed in, and assuming the data transcriptionist has keyed in everything accurately, all the math, if it's good, then that paper return bypasses the additional step of a human being physically looking at everything on the return and comparing it to what's in the computer system. So it slows it down, paper filing, for a couple of reasons. but it's more likely to be looked at by a human if it is paper filed versus electronic. It's very quick, goes on through, assuming it's math is accurate. Does that answer the question? I think.
Yes, it does. File early, file often, and
File
on
on paper.
But that's too much work.
Right. Yeah. Where you get in the
for
old
me,
days, you could go to the post office and get like copies of tax returns.
Yeah,
Green
but
for the 1040.
when I first started my first few tax returns, my dad made me learn to file it by hand. Taught me
Excellent.
how to do it, and so I had to learn to fill everything out by hand. So I know how to do that. You know what the difficulty is now when you have 500 lines of crypto transactions, putting those down by hand. Granted, you could print them out and send them in, but I would have to literally do that data myself for the most part. Online, I have, a platform that I can pay to do that for me. And man, yes, I can staple all that to my tax return and send it in, but it's a lot of extra work for me.
So yes, it is. Here's a quick tip for people that have hundreds of trades, even dozens of trades. If you are preparing your own tax return, and whether it's crypto or stocks, whatever, some other kind of thing, most tax software will allow you to put in a single entry summary for all your short-term transactions and a single entry for all of your long-term transactions. And you put that in to your return. And so you have a gain or a loss, short-term, and a gain or a loss for long-term. You can submit that tax return electronically. And then what the extra step you have to take is you print out a form, and the software will create it for you. I think it's form 8453. And you check a box and you attach it to your consolidated statement from your financial institution for all these transactions, and you mail that to the IRS. And eventually it will catch up with what you filed electronically, and your electronic return is going to process through the system, and the paper portion will eventually catch up, and they'll match it at the IRS, and it will be all good. So you don't have to spend tons of time entering a bunch of single transactions or even uploading all this stuff into the tax software. So there's a little bit of a workaround.
That's helpful. I mean, the nice thing is, there are a couple of platforms, at least for crypto, I'm sure for taxes, for traditional stocks as well, that they just pull the information from the trades that I've made and automatically upload it to my tax software. So if I didn't have that, I don't know what I've done because I didn't know what I was doing previously. So talking to you is certainly helpful, and getting these tips and tricks is really nice. So thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Make it easy for yourself.
I got kind of a follow-up question with that then. So since the whole crypto tax thing has been coming up, have you been seeing people at the IRS now starting to get these stacks and stacks of papers?
Well, I have a couple friends that still work at the IRS, and we talk occasionally. But where I see it more is, so I'm fully self-employed, but I have a side hustle. My side hustle is employment. I actually have a little job, a job, and I work for a company called Tax Hawk. So there's some free advertising there. And people come in to the chat room, and they've been, trading in the virtual world, have no clue what they're doing, and say, "Oh, how do I report this stuff?" Oh my gosh, okay. Well, let's have a conversation here. And so I have to, walk them through the basic process, and they'll say, "Oh, but I have to enter all these transactions, hundreds of these things that I've done." It's like, no. Let's summarize, get your consolidated statement, and I have to walk them through that. So yes, to answer your question, more and more I see people having, stacks, so to speak, virtual stacks of paper from all these transactions. But thank God there are companies that are forming and coming online as a direct result. And they're doing all this automated work. It's like, yay.
Yeah, one of the things that when I did mine just last year, I had only been making trades from September to the end of the year, right? And I went to Coinly and got everything all set up, and it'll show you all the transactions you made. And oh my God, like it was just click. It was like 20 like 20 pages worth of transactions. And I felt so bad for anybody who's got to like look through that stuff. And
Yeah.
especially considering that it was only a few months. I was like, if I do this for the entire year, what is going to happen?
You know what's interesting to me though is Nate, when you say that, is you don't put down if the investment was crypto or stocks or art or whatever the investment was. It's just I paid this price and I sold at this price, right? And so it's interesting to me, the last 2 tax returns, they've asked, hey, have you sold any digital currencies or digital, whatever they called it, I forget off the top of my head. And it was just a checkbox. Essentially, have you bought and sold digital assets? And other than clicking that checkbox, none of the transactions that you put in, do they know, is it a digital asset or is it a stock or a bond or anything else? There's no way for them to know the difference. Is that correct? Other than that checkbox, Kristine?
That's it. That's the checkbox. Now,
That's it.
well, from your perspective, so I can guarantee you all of those companies that you're transacting business in for a virtual currency, they are reporting it to the IRS. They report it to the IRS. And so what happens is the IRS gets it from the company. And this is true with wages, bank interest. I mean, if it's income, if it's a financial transaction, it's going to the IRS. And the IRS is looking for the matching transaction on your tax return. And so they have drilled down, and you're right, it's a digital asset. It's called, I brought it up real quick. Did you receive as a reward, a payment for property or services, or sell, exchange, or otherwise dispose of a digital asset?
That's it.
Check. Yes. So if you don't check that box, they're still getting the information, and they'll know. They've come up to speed very quickly on this. They'll know.
You know what's interesting? 2 years ago, if you asked me, or 3 years ago, if you asked me, there's a lot of decentralized finance exchanges that don't report to the IRS because they weren't based in the United States and they weren't really abiding by United States laws. And so we might be putting that stuff into our tax returns, but they might not have been receiving that. They've really, like you said, really gotten up to ensure that companies doing business in the United States are, sending the same information that we are. And the things that I learned very early on in crypto was ensure that you put your taxes in properly, because you don't want to get, how do I put this nicely, screwed in the long run, right? Start early, start correct, and ensure that you're not going to lose your gains in the future. Now, there are still some platforms that probably aren't really on the IRS's radar because, again, they're decentralized. And maybe I don't know how all of that works, but the point is it doesn't matter if you think they're on the books or not. Put your taxes in correctly and you'll never be in trouble.
The IRS is...
Hire a tax expert like Kristine.
Right. Right. The IRS is, in a lot of ways, they're slow and they're behind, but they're very methodical and they catch up. It might take them a couple of years, but they get there. And so some of what you're talking about with these decentralized institutions is this creates, most of them are foreign. It creates a foreign reporting requirement, FBAR, Foreign Bank and Financial Acts, FBAR. That's what that is. And a lot of people have that, it's like offshore. So it's outside the realm of U.S. business and so on and so forth. But the IRS, they're pretty savvy, and they have some very smart people very high up that track this information, and their radar is, they know this goes on, so they're looking for it. Sadly, they kind of expect that you're lying, so they're looking for it. You have to prove to them that that you're on the good.
And here's the thing, though, too. Remember, with crypto, the blockchain is an open, clear ledger. You can see everything. Everybody can see everything. That doesn't necessarily mean you have access to all the funds or whatever. But the best way I ever heard the blockchain being explained is it is like one of those giant safes, right? In bank safes, where everything is made of glass. You can see everything, but you can't necessarily get into it, but you can still see it. And so, you talk about you talk about the IRS catching up. Quite frankly, all they really need to do is just go on to Etherscan or wherever, and just go take a look at what's going on in the blockchain, and they've got you right there. The other issue that's going to be popping up is going to be digital IDs, and then whose wallet, these numbers that is someone's wallet, who does this belong to? That's kind of the other issue that I think they're going to be running into. But pretty soon, digital IDs are going to be a thing where enable for you to just transact in general. You are going to have one of these, and that's going to be linked to your wallets. So it's kind of an interesting. I'm not sure how necessarily they're going to be doing that, but that's definitely going to be a future thing coming pretty soon.
I can believe that completely. The IRS wants their pound of flesh,
even if they don't deserve it.
And they cut thick.
Or excuse me, Mrs. McGettit has a question. It looks like Mrs. McGettit, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Hey, so just kind of I guess a curiosity, and I'm not sure if this is maybe getting too far into the weeds. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I need to clear my throat. But I know that a lot of people, when it was getting really big to do things like streaming on Twitch and other such avenues to create revenue, people were doing, they were trying, I guess it was the best way to phrase it would be they were trying to create a loophole to avoid taxes by basically claiming that they were accepting donations. Do you have any idea on kind of how that has gone? Because I heard about it for a long time and I haven't heard anything in a couple of years now. And I'm just wondering, like, did that really backfire for people? Do you know at all?
Not specifically. I do not, because I'm a little bit out of those sorts of things that the IRS is handling. I haven't seen a lot of that in like IRS news feeds that I look at from time to time. I can give you maybe sort of an example. I had someone come into a chat with me, and he is creating he has a business, and he wants to write off a lot of his expenses that have to do with his vehicle. And he was streaming some of his repairs and the rides that he does in his cars and things like that. And he was wanting to write off the cost of his vehicle, which is like this $200,000 vehicle that he's using. And I said, well, this was my reply. Well, okay, you have this $200,000 vehicle you're trying to depreciate and write off as a business expense because you're streaming and doing these things. What kind of income are you making that is going to a reasonable, the IRS is big on reasonable and prudent. What kind of income are you making that would allow you, A, to buy a $200,000 vehicle, and the rides that you're taking with your vehicle as you're videoing yourself live, is that more of a fun thing, a joyous thing, an entertainment thing, which is interesting for your audience, but has nothing to do with a business expense? That mileage you're driving around, you can't claim that as a business expense. You can't claim it. You can't claim, the car of itself. Now, maybe if you had $2 million of revenue, okay, a $200,000 purchase for a vehicle, that's probably more legit. Again, what is reasonably defensible if the IRS asks you about it? So these loopholes that you're talking about, that's, when it's already there in the tax code, what you can or cannot do. And I don't get down into the weeds that much, so I'm maybe not the person to ask because I don't see this and I don't study this. But creating a loophole is, it's a wonderful thing in your head, but maybe not in reality on your tax return. So I would say proceed with caution, or spend an hour or two with someone that specializes in this. Spend the money, invest in yourself to know for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was just really curious because I knew it was a big thing for a little while and I haven't heard anything about it in a long time. So I guess I kind of assumed it would probably be not a good idea to do and something that would catch up with you.
Probably, yes. A lot of TikTok advice, maybe not so good for the tax world.
I kind of want to add something to that, Kristine. I think one of the things that you said that really is, I feel like, very prudent advice for people that own a business, or maybe even people that are investing in assets for the first time in their life and haven't filled out a tax form before for that type of. It makes sense to spend $100 or a few $100s or $1,000 to ensure the first time that everything is going correctly. Hire a tax professional, at least get their advice. Look, sit down with them, pay whatever it is to get an hour of advice, and understand what your specific situation is, because everyone's situation is slightly different. I've owned my own business in the past. I know what it's like to set up an LLC. I know what it's like to do DBA. And I can tell you that early on, I did set up a business account at a bank, thankfully, but I had no idea what I was doing. And I really wished I just sat down with somebody for a couple of hours to ensure that I was getting everything in line properly, because it would have saved me a headache a year later when I was like, I wish I thought about this a year ago. Now, we didn't do anything that was bad or difficult to fix, but I could have made my life a lot easier if I had just sat down with someone, they'd paid the money to begin with. So I think that's great advice. I want to reiterate that.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I literally just had this conversation with someone this morning. Great questions about his rental house. They built a house, they lived in it for a while, now they converted it to a rental, and he wanted to know if he could take all his travel expenses before he actually was renting it. Oh, you traveled back and forth from one state to another to set it all up. And I said, no, are you running a business, or do you just happen to have a house that you're renting and making some income and have some expenses? So that was kind of a question to think about. And your rental house, you can't claim expenses until it's actually rented. When it may not be, or when it's available for rent. Sorry, it can be available for rent, but not rented, and you can claim expenses. But all this stuff you're doing beforehand, well, you're just getting it ready to rent, and it's not necessarily an expense that you complain. So you can take. Sorry, stumbling over my words. So again, pay someone, for the first time you're doing this. Pay someone to prepare your tax return so you understand it for a couple hours worth of their time. It's so worth it.
And it might also be better to live in a house for a while you're fixing it up for X amount of time before you turn it into rental property, because then you might have different tax write-offs as someone that's living in the house and fixing it up versus someone that's just buying a house and renting it out. So there's every situation is different.
Absolutely.
My personal opinion is this. I can fix a car, right? But I really don't want to spend the time to go fix it myself. So I'm going to go ahead and go pay someone to do it for me, even if that is paying a premium, right? So I really don't want to deal with taxes. And so my whole thought process is I'll pay someone a premium to go take care of that for me.
Yeah, I literally used that example in a book. I think it was changing the oil. Yeah, you could change the oil in your car. Lots of helpful videos on YouTube, You could set a bone, probably, if you break your arm and, don't want to go see a doctor. You could probably do it yourself, but pay the professional.
That was one of my favorite things about your book, actually. As soon as I heard that, I remember where I was doing some pest control in the house and had you plugged in. I was like, yes, that right there. Where you're like, yeah, YouTube is wonderful, where you can go learn to do anything yourself, but you have to put in the time for that. And then, you can mess it up because you're not the expert, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, how much do you want for? Yeah, exactly. It's I'll be like, here, you do it for me, please.
There you go. Yeah. What else you got, Will?
We've got a question from the audience. Moonpilled Rational Optics asks, a staking situation where you are given a percentage of the token daily or time locked for multiple years, how would you report that? And my response to him, Hex is a tricky scenario because you have a couple things that you have to consider. When you stake Hex, or when you burn it, you essentially destroy the coins. So I don't know if it counts as a sell or something. Hex is a little bit tricky. There are some professionals that talk about how to do the tax stuff for Hex specifically.
And that would not be me.
Yes, but to kind of, I would to equate it to something in the traditional finance, Mom. Do you know how taxes for bonds or certificate of deposits would work?
So,
And
well,
we can
okay.
we can kind of guess based off of what the answer is to this, because there is like the guidance in the cryptosphere for how to do this stuff. They function very similarly to bonds or certificates of deposit. So we can probably extrapolate some sort of answer. And again, none of this is financial advice. None of this is tax advice. We're just kind of going through thought processes here. But can you kind of walk us through the way that bonds and CDs are taxed? I presume it's income or something like that, right?
So the bond, yeah, and there's multiple different types of bonds, series,
Hmm.
H bonds, double H, I bonds, all these different things, and how you use them may or may not be taxable. For instance, if you're using bonds for, say, for education purposes, well, then it's a non-taxable thing. You report it, but it's non-taxable. But with the certificate of deposit, you're earning interest. And so that interest is what's taxable. That's what you're reporting, is the interest. And so that becomes taxable as you go along. With bond interest, a lot of people report the interest. Again, it kind of depends on the bond, but you report the interest as you go along. So, I
Okay.
mean, that's the
Interesting. What
basic
about the
concept.
idea? Because when it comes to like hex stakes, right? That almost seems almost like it'd be like a salaried type of thing, because you put
Yeah.
an amount of hex in, and then when the staking is up, you get a certain amount back out plus all the principal, but it all comes out at one time.
Yeah, I would imagine that the quantity counts, the quantity value at the time that you stake or burn the hex counts, and then the quantity value at the time that you end the stake also counts, and then the increase in that is also income. So and don't quote me on this, but the increase in token number would be income. The initial amount that you put in is just like, a regular investment, and then the price difference between when you bought and when you sold. Right. So when you bought, so like you have your initial chunk of hex, you stake it, and then you grow more hex out of that, and that's your interest, right? This amount when you buy it and when you sell it, if there's any income there, then like whatever your profit is off of that is capital gains tax, and then this is all just more of that. But it's essentially, I wouldn't say free coins, but it's coins that you've earned through the process of like
Salary bonus?
doing work, right? You have done your own work, you have executed code, you have earned money. So I presume that it would be counted just like regular income. And again, I'm not a tax specialist or financial advisor or anything, but that's what makes sense to me in my head. There's some cool software out there that you guys can find on, it's either GoRealDeFi.com, Hexfire.com, or shoot, oh man, it's one of the new ones that came out. It might be shoot, I can pull it up here in a second once I'm done rambling and
Damn,
someone else is
you
talking.
build-
But there is a system that you can plug your wallet address into, and it will print you out an Excel spreadsheet of like all of these values and all of these everythings for you to add to your 8949 forms when you go, and your Schedule Ds and all that other these transaction paperworks, where like Brendan was talking about earlier, where you add in the manual, like these are my trade values, this is my profit, this is my loss, yada yada yada, all that stuff. So this is all speculation. We're kind of guessing here.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Moonpilled, if the token is not sold, I think that the mint, I don't know if the mint is a taxable event or if the selling of the token. I'm pretty sure that I'm positive that the selling of the token is a taxable event. But until you realize some sort of profit, I don't think that there is a taxable event. And I could be wrong on that. If anyone else has any other input on that, let me know.
I just want to jump in and say one little thing there real quick. It's a
Yes.
reportable event. It may or may not actually be taxable.
Correct. It's kind of similar to dividends when it comes to stocks, and you have to consider staking rewards similar to dividends of stocks. So essentially, you're getting a reward, a gain, but unless you take that, unless you sell that and take the final gain, you may or may not owe taxes. So you do have to understand that every situation is different. And in crypto, every situation of how you stake is different, because like Will said, some are burnt and then you're reminting. Some you're just getting rewards based on what you've staked. And therefore, they're going to be taxed differently. And you really need to talk to a tax expert to understand this small variable minutia that really gets into this, because it's very, very all over the place. But I would say in general, make sure you're taking your taxes. Make sure you're getting, like Kristine said, at least a list of everything that's happening within your crypto sphere, so that you can talk to an expert. There's great digital software now as well. But I will say there's a third type, airdrops. How do airdrops work? When it comes to Pulse Chain, when that came out, everything that you got as an airdrop was worth 0 when you got it. So if you get something that's worth 0, do you ever have to pay taxes on it? Because you didn't get anything worth anything. I don't know the answer to that, but you should consult a tax expert to ensure that you're also not paying taxes that you shouldn't be paying. So there's a lot of different things that you need to look at. It's not just about paying taxes. It's about not paying taxes you don't have to pay, because they're not going to often give you the money back.
There's so many minute, small, tiny little details when it comes to, and this is the reason why the government has been struggling so much right now, trying to figure out exactly how to tax crypto, because there's a lot of things that are different about the small details, such as like with Hex, right? You're burning these tokens when you put them in. That's the same thing as taking your money and just literally throwing it into a fire. How is that a taxable event, right? But then you mint them, and then it's like an airdrop that goes poof out of nowhere and just drops on your head. And it's the exact same amount of coins as you had before. So does that really count as like a swap? No, you're never selling anything. You're burning them, they're poof gone, and then they magically reappear somewhere else. Magic money, right? Magic internet money. So it's these things that people who are making these tax laws are looking at it like, how is that taxable? And then the other thing is, if you say, well, that's taxable, well, it's like, okay, well, how does that react to the rest of the world then with everything else, all these other assets? Because once you make a rule for one, you have to start, that rule has to be for everything. And so now, excuse me, it's no longer really staking anymore, which could be the same as getting dividends, right? Now it's called mining. You are mining. Okay, well, if you're mining these coins, is people mining gold in the earth, does that count as a taxable event now? Right? So you're running into these issues, and this is the reason why there's been so many talks about what laws are what for each of these taxable events. And it's, the crypto has really shaken things up, that's for sure.
I was trying to find it and I cannot, so I suppose I'm just going to have to, I'll put it up in the Telegram chat whenever I do. There's definitely a website though that you can plug your wallet in, and then it'll create this, it'll look at all your stakes, and it will print out like, hey, this is your start, this is your end, this is your price when you bought, this is your price when you staked. It gives you a whole bunch of information, and from that information you come to the decision of how you're going to form all your taxes and everything. But
can I add one
sorry,
more
we don't.
thing, Will?
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead, Brendan.
Nate, just about what you were saying, it's interesting, because if you say you randomly find like gold coins in your property, right? Or if you find something like a meteorite that you could sell, or some rare artifact, generally speaking, you not only you owe taxes on your found wealth, but then when you sell it, you owe taxes again. So in some cases, you might have 2 taxable events. And I don't know how that works in crypto, but in cases you might have 2 as well. So don't ask me. I'm not a tax expert, but there's a lot of weird laws out there. And that's why it's important to find a tax expert when you're getting through some of this minutia.
Kristine, what's your thoughts on this then?
Oh man. Keep it simple. No, keep it simple. No, but you're right. It's most financial transactions have some kind of tax consequence. So if you can think about, okay, I'm buying this, virtual currency, what might be the tax consequence? I don't know. So I'm going to go do some research. I'm going to pay an expert to help me understand this. So if you could think about this financial thing I'm going to do, what might be the tax consequence? And that I think would help a lot of people, because many people don't think about that when they're going to rent a house. They kind of have some vague understanding, or rent out a house. Oh, I'm going to rent a house, and so I'm going to make a bunch of income. What are some of the actual like serious tax consequences from that? Or I'm going to, sell my stock. Woo, I made a ton of money. I'm going to invest this act. Here's a great example. I have a new client. She made $300,000 in the stock market 2 years ago. Put in $150,000 into fixing up her house. Took the other $150,000 and invested it, because she did really well in the stock market the year before in the particular thing she invested in. Well, she'll reinvest that other $150,000 and make more money. Well, she wasn't thinking about the fact that she had a $300,000 gain, and she's going to have to pay some tax on that. She just went out of her head, didn't even think about it. No money saved. So she reinvested that $150,000 and it tanked. So she lost that $150,000. Anyway, long story short, she has a $187,000 tax bill from essentially a single transaction. And she has no viable income. She's trying to do an Airbnb thing. No viable income. And it's like she had a $187,000 tax bill. So now we have to talk about, well, you dumped $150,000 into your house to rent it out on Airbnb. You may need to tap some equity in your house, or get a loan, or do some other stuff, because this tax bill isn't going away. So she wasn't thinking about the tax consequences. So that's what I think. Think about the possible tax consequences to your financial transaction you're about to make.
That I hate doing that, by the way. I have done this, and I got a tier of basically when I'm taking profits, right, and the money amounts on them. And every single time I'm looking at it, even at my minimum of 200,000, when I pull profits, it's like, let's say that's just the absolute minimum. What am I paying in taxes at that point? And you look at that and you're just like, oh, no. And then, my max one is 1.7 million. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to pull that one out. Nice. I got a really high amount. Now what's the taxes I'm paying on that? Oh,
yes.
Oh man, I see, like, someone like me. I have this for the first time ever. I'm seeing 5 figures in my portfolio. I've never seen that amount of money, and my family never has either, right? So I'm like, wow, doing great. This is awesome. So the idea of having to hand over like $200,000 check or whatever to the IRS because taxes
Ouch.
is like mind-boggling for me. I'm like, that is so impossible, and you're stealing my money.
Yeah, and the thing is, all the money you need to pay the IRS or the state, you have literally passing through your fingertips. This is part of what I was speaking at FinCon, the big conference they had in September. There you go. Yeah. All the money you need literally passing through your fingertips to pay the IRS. Set some aside.
Yep.
Do they take gold Sacagawea coins?
Oh, I love the Sacagawea coins.
Me too.
They might take payment of Sacagawea coins at the local TAC office, Taxpayer Assistance Center office.
I'm gonna pay them in pennies. Lots of pennies.
Do they take ETH coin?
They're not set up to, no.
If they don't take pennies, then it shouldn't be viable currency.
I don't know why. I mean, technically, that's currency for
Yep.
income tax purposes. Those pennies.
You
Don't tempt me.
You had mentioned a minute ago FinCon. Now, Brendan and I, as well as Josh and another one of our audience members, Antoine, we had all gone to a Cardano conference down in Miami, and that was awesome. Can you explain to us and to the folks at home? Oh, thank you, Moonpilled Rational Optics. Hang on, Miss McGettick, can you bring that back up again? Rule of thumb: save 20 to 50% for taxes. Ugh, yeah, that is an unfortunate,
The state really
unfortunately
matters.
variable number.
The state matters a lot. Like, I know I'm in Florida, so I don't have to worry about state taxes, but
Right.
federal taxes can vary, and every state's going to vary too. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
You not only have
long term,
income.
there's a lot of things you got to think about.
You have federal income, state income, and then some states also have capital gains in addition to the income. So like I know Washington State, which I'm a member of, they don't have any income tax, but they do have a very high capital gains tax. So I need to get the hell out of Washington before I start doing my my crypto polls and filing taxes and everything
Yeah,
like that. But
I'm in
that's something
Minnesota,
to
so everything is high for me. Get the
Yeah.
Yes,
hell out
yeah.
of here.
Minnesota, Ohio, California, New York. They have,
Oh.
they have
Hawaii.
Florida.
tax.
Florida,
Yep,
Yeah, not
Florida's a great
Florida.
place.
Texas, good place.
Florida, Texas, Wyoming, New Hampshire,
Tennessee.
Tennessee. I think Alabama is one of the better tax haven states. There was a cool website I visited a while ago that like ranked them from like the most amount of taxes you'll pay in your entire life, which I think was New Jersey, California, and New York. No surprise.
New York,
And
yeah,
then all the
Hawaii.
way down to like the lowest number of taxes you'll pay throughout the duration of your life. And it
Alaska.
varied from like 2 million all the way down to like 200,000. Oh yeah, Alaska. That's another good one.
Alaska, South Dakota, I believe as well.
Yep, South Dakota is a good one. Yeah. I know that Alaska they'll pay
Nevada,
you yearly to stay
Moonhill
there.
Rational says Nevada. That's correct. And I think if no one said Montana, I think Montana is a very good one as well.
Wyoming.
But
Hell
again,
yeah.
A lot of
Well, we
those
could-
states know a lot of people. They're trying to
we
get people
could-
to come.
Very cool to have your mother on stream. Oh, thank you, Ricky Paul. I appreciate that. And then Ascending Man and okay, yeah. All right, we are caught up on chats. All right, I'm gonna dial it back. We're gonna go back to FinCon. So, Mother, you had mentioned FinCon. Can you tell us what is FinCon and what did you do over there?
So FinCon has been around, gosh, like 13 or 14 years. It's basically where finance and media meet. That's how they bill it. Financial conference, FinCon. And I was a breakout speaker this year. This was my first time to attend and first time to speak. I was invited to speak. And I gave a presentation on how to avoid trouble with the IRS. Most of the people there are self-employed. A lot of the attendees, and there was, I don't know, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people there. There's a lot of people that set up booths and sponsors and things like that. But the majority of people are self-employed. So I was speaking to this audience and I had a great turnout. It's like standing room only, 300 people or so in the room, and had a line of people after my presentation to come talk to me about stuff. And it was a lot of fun. I just had good audience rapport, and I had people laughing, and everyone had a good time. And we were talking about taxes. So how often have you been to someplace where taxes are fun and interesting to hear and listen about? Not very much. So a big portion of FinCon also, maybe for some of your listening audience, the monetization of your knowledge for small business is I mean, that is a huge thing. The virtual world, that's a big part of FinCon. It's growing. And the things that you put out on YouTube, huge population there growing. And I told Will when I came back, I said, I was actually thinking about you and the applicability to go to this conference next year in 2024. I think you would find it very interesting, and you'd find a lot of like-minded people. So I'm plugging FinCon 2024. I get nothing for that, by the way, but you might want to check
it says
it out.
here on your channel too that you were entertaining a stand-in. What was that? Entertaining a standing room only audience.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I want to plug your YouTube. Go subscribe to her, and go learn some things, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Slowly trying to build that up.
You can find
Yeah.
all the descriptions below. I believe we've got links down there. Let me scroll down. Yes, we do have links. You can find our mother's book in the link below, or you could follow her on. Well, actually, shoot, it's in the scroll.
I'm primarily on LinkedIn. That's my main channel. So
Yes. Actually, I'll go ahead and throw those in the chat since I have them easy copy pastable. But yeah, that might be something that we as the DGen Roundtable might have to do is go check out FinCon and go see what's going on over there.
That's a good idea.
I do love Atlanta. I do love
Yeah.
Atlanta in October. It might be a place where we have some profit taking opportunities. So I won't say it's not a possibility.
you might
Yeah, who knows?
consider being a sponsor or setting up as an exhibitor.
Yeah, perhaps.
I like
That
the
would be-
hockey conferences.
Yes. Oh, so Mother, we're gonna plug Brendan here real quick. So I was telling you about our our spot down in Miami. What I didn't tell you is that Brendan here gave what was it, Brendan, about a 20 or 30-minute speech talking about macroeconomics. Can you kind of do your little plug for that?
Yeah, I just gave a quick macroeconomic outlook for the next 1 to 5 years. Obviously everything can change. And then also, the understanding of how inflation affects the economy, how inflation is calculated, how the government has changed some of their metrics when it comes to inflationary pressures, and what that outlook looks like in the short and long term. So a lot of government macroeconomics, a lot of inflationary economics, in both, then some economic experts short and long term outlooks for our economy.
That's really great. And I think I actually sat in on that conversation when you were here in this room, Will, and I was sitting over in another chair.
Oh,
I listened into that and I was like, wow, these guys really know what they're doing and talking about. I was really impressed with your group. I remember that. And you were
Brendan,
talking about
you know
that,
what you're
Brendan.
doing?
Yes.
I don't think I know what I'm doing. Just pull myself up by the bootstraps.
If you don't know, you're sure as hell good at faking
Hey,
it and also
fake it till you
saying the
make it.
correct words.
I have a
What's
little
that
bit.
shirt of yours say, Will?
What was that?
I
What's
said,
that shirt of yours say?
Oh, bad ideas.
I would just say though, the other thing is, we're going to be talking at the Hex conference.
Yes.
In January, just coming up in a couple of weeks. So there's a 3-day online Hex conference, and we are going to be on a panel, the DGen Roundtable, and then also most likely I will be re-giving an adapted version of that speech virtually as well. So they've asked us to do a roundtable, if you want to put it that way. We're also going to take part in a Guinness Book of World Records. He's already put that out, so I'm not saying anything that I told him we wouldn't say. So he told us that a long time ago. But we are going to be partaking in a Guinness Book of World Records that weekend as well. And so we'll be giving essentially, like, we'll have a panel, and then we'll have someone asking us questions, and then I'll be giving a speech with Josh as well. So it's nice that people are asking us to talk at these conferences and trust us to do so, because
That's great.
I feel like other people think that I have more to give than I feel about myself, but I'm happy to talk about things I know, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Well, to be fair, Brendan, though, it's one of the reasons why we formed this group, I mean, when we were in all those chats, we were constantly having people always asking us, what about this? What about that? Blah, blah, blah. We're always able to answer them, We eventually just kind of formed this group saying, hey, let's share the knowledge. Let's share the knowledge.
If we're going to have all these conversations about all of our silly plays and our silly thoughts, we might as well record it, right? Real quick, I want to roll back the conversation a smidgen here, and I want to touch up on some of the like roll back a little bit and go back to the questions that we had about the IRS. I've got one thing here specifically that I think that some members of the audience can benefit from if they employ it. Now, it is I will preface this by saying that this is a major KYC function that that you can do on the IRS website, as I recall. But Mom, you and I were talking about this earlier, but there's essentially a digital ID system that you can go onto the IRS's website, and you can essentially open up a profile using your social security number or your whatever your social. So you identify yourself, you say, hey, IRS, I'm me. I want to create an account here, and I want to know exactly all the juice that you got on me, so that way I know that I'm paying my taxes accurately, or like make sure that I know all the stuff that you know about me, so that way I'm doing things right. So this is something that I think is like you can double check to see what the IRS does know and maybe what they don't know about you when it comes time for you to make the decisions on filing your taxes. So I will leave it at that. The IRS, like you can use the system to find out what they know, and also to cross-reference things that you think that you know about yourself that you are aware or unaware that the IRS has on you. But Mom, can you kind of sort of explain the way that works a little bit for us?
Yes, absolutely. So you go to irs.gov And if you don't have an account, you will pretend like you want to log into your account, whatever that link is on the home page. And then you will begin creating an account. And the system they use is ID.me, which is actually a company. I think they're in Virginia or something like that. And you will put in your name, address, date of birth, social, get some basic information. And ID.me uses a digital, um, uh, live digital photo. You will use your phone, hold it up to your face. It'll scan a picture of your face, and then it will you are giving them your phone number to cross-link a text message that will send you to your phone and back to the ID.me website. And so you are verifying who you say you are on their system. And it takes about 10 minutes, maybe 15 max, if everything runs smoothly. And so now you have verified your ID, you've created an account to go into the IRS website and look at your tax history, your tax returns specifically, all of the wage and income that has been reported to the IRS in your name and social is there in the IRS website. So you can look at copies of your tax returns going back several years. And it won't actually look like the 1040 form that you know. It's a digitized version, but it's all the same information. You can get the historical transcript information of what the IRS is doing in your account. If they put a penalty on, you may or may not be aware they did, and then they took it back off, or you paid a penalty because you were filing your tax return late one year, and maybe they charged you $500 for this penalty. Well, with that kind of information, if you look at the historical information over several years, you might actually be able to request the IRS remove that $500 penalty. Now, you might not get $500 in cash, but you could get $500 in credit on your account to pay towards the next tax bill, things like that. That's part of the work that I do in my capacity as an enrolled agent. So you can look at your transcript history and find this information and see what the IRS is doing in your account and what they think you owe, if you owe something or not, if you have a dispute. If you're not getting any letters from the IRS, well, then you're good to go. You paid your bills, you're at zero, fantastic, good job. But there's a lot of interesting information you can see in your account with the IRS. So create that account.
I have two quick follow-up questions. The first one is, if I can't get $500 cash, can I get $500 worth of Bitcoin?
Not yet.
And two, do I really have to give them my facial features to be able to set up an account? Why did it want to dox me so much?
So that's just ID.me. This is a lot of government websites, not just the IRS. The same is true with the Social Security Administration.
I'm going to need a new face at some point.
Well, maybe. I don't know. You have a nice face. Your face is good.
Oh, thank you.
But you got to do this for a lot of government websites. So here's another quick tip. And I talk about this in my book. Go to the Social Security Administration website, ssa.gov, create an online account. Here you will have to use ID.me as well. Once you set it up once, ID.me, you can use it across all the government platforms. You're just doing it once. But look to see what the Social Security Administration has on record for you with how much money you've paid into the system all the years that you've been working, whether you're self-employed or you're a wage earner. Look to see, do they have your right birth date? I have a client, he thought he was going to retire next year, early retirement at age 62. The IRS thinks he's 61. Or excuse me, the Social Security Administration thinks he's 61. I've been after him for a year to go check his account. He finally got in and he found out that the Social Security Administration thinks he's a year younger than he is. So now he has to go prove his actual age. So he's got to get together all the documents. So go see what SSA has on your record. Create an account there, as well as the IRS.
What if they think I'm dead? Then I don't have to pay taxes.
Actually, that happens.
I know it does. I know that's why I bring it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, well, then you have to. I mean,
names, people, sometimes it just gets added to the wrong person, and
it's crazy. Yes, it's like, wow, how do you prove you're alive? Hello, and that you're not dead. So
Bueller. Sorry.
That's a heck of a question, though.
Right? No, it's true.
It's true. It
How do
happens.
I know I'm alive?
Yeah. How do you prove that you're alive? So.
It almost sounds advantageous to just leave it that way, but I don't know for sure.
I mean, I would think that one would be easy to disprove. You just walk in there and be like, "Hi, hey,
Hey.
yeah, I'm here." I mean, clearly I'm not a skeleton, so.
Well, I think that the
If you have
proving
the right
part would probably
documents,
be
if you don't have the right documents, they're not going to believe you.
exactly
Oh,
who's to
goodness.
say you're not a poser. You had a question though, Mrs. McGetta. Is it I think that we've covered this ID thing pretty well. Do you have a question?
Yeah, it's rather off topic. It's or not on
fine.
topic with exactly the last one. Kind of a new bullet point here, I guess I would call it. I was curious because I've heard a lot of things said about filing taxes after you've held an asset for a certain number of years, and I was kind of wondering exactly how that works because I have a lot of friends who are in a community where we collect things, and like sports cards, for example. When you turn around and sell those, most people have no idea how to go about doing anything relating to taxes to that because it's just something that, we collect them. We're not necessarily planning to sell them. And then when you do sell them, like, what exactly do we need to look for when it comes to being able to prove, oh, I've held this thing for a certain number of years? Is that something that's even really possible with that kind of a thing? Or,
Yeah,
because it also applies to crypto.
Right. That's a good question. So, so historically, if you're collecting these things in your head, you kind of know about when you got the thing, whatever it may be. So there's kind of a date stamp of when you got it, and there was a value, whether it's on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or wherever you're selling something online on PayPal or not PayPal, eBay. Okay, there was a value to it when you got it. So that's a data point. And then you sell the thing, and let's say you make some money on it. Well, there's another data point. And so you have a gain or a loss to this thing. And in terms of proving when you got it, to some extent, you can literally write on a piece of paper on, August 4th of 2005, I got this thing, whatever it is, at this place, and the value was this much. That's written proof to some extent. And if the IRS wants to challenge it, they will, but you've got written proof of when you got it and what the value was and some history on it. And then when you sold it, presumably, and you had that same information. And so those are some things that the IRS would look at, like where's the written proof? And it could be something as simple as a piece of paper, which sounds ridiculous, but it's true. So that's your documentation. And maybe you were smart enough to go look up online, oh my gosh, what's this thing worth? And and you Google it, oh my God, it's worth $5,000 and I got it for 50 cents at a garage sale or something. Whatever. You may have taken a screenshot. I mean, I tell people all the time, take a screenshot of how you're pricing your car on Kelley Blue Book or something. That's proof. That's legitimate, known, acceptable proof to the IRS. Something as simple as that.
Okay, cool. So it's not exactly super complicated. You don't have to have receipts from 10 years ago.
No, not necessarily. If you do, that's great, but not necessarily. No.
That's what I was going to say.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good question.
Imagine just like 15, 20 years worth of receipts. Oh, God.
Oh.
That'd be horrible.
Something my little piece of advice on the receipt subject, you can take pictures of your receipts and then you can store them digitally. This is something that my brother does for his small business, and he was explaining to me just the other day, is you can take pictures of your receipts and they'll last way long because eventually like receipts fade or they get crumpled up or the ink wears off. You can take pictures of the receipts and then store those on your computer, and then it's like, congratulations, now you have an electronic file system. And the receipt has all the date. It's got like where you bought it, like what card you used, yada yada yada. In a perfect world,
Okay, cool.
but yeah. So pictures of receipts works just fine as well.
Good. That's actually something else that I was wondering about, because I was wondering if that would count. If it's still valid, if it's just a picture. Or if they might be like,
absolutely.
oh, you doctored it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm assuming they're not really going to go that far unless they're really trying to like get you in
If they're
trouble.
really trying to look, and you're in a deep exam or a deep audit, then you've got other issues going on if they're trying to look,
Yeah, I'm
and then
assuming they'd only really do that if there's like a
criminal
valid reason.
investigation or
Yeah.
something pops
Mhm.
up. Yeah. And a basic exam or a basic audit, not to make light of that, you show them here's my PDF of the receipt I took 5 years ago for the thing I'm claiming. That's good. At the end of the day, the person at the IRS, Will, you and I talked about this. They're regular people
Yes.
like you and I.
That was where I was going to roll in right.
Okay.
Why don't you go ahead and flow
And,
right on into this, because that was my follow-up.
they want to get their job done. Those examiners, those auditors, they want to get their job done. So if you make it easy for them to go through your stuff and check, boom, approved, do that kind of thing. I wrote about this in the book. We were talking earlier about, this goes back to the reporting requirements for those bazillion transactions that you got to report on your Schedule D or your Form 8949. Sometimes I will have people say, oh, can't the IRS just figure it out for me? Why do I have to report all this? So my response is, okay, you want this unknown IRS person to figure out your financial transactions for you, and their shift is 4 p.m. to midnight, and they get your documents at 11:30 at night on a Friday, and they're checking out at midnight, half an hour to go, and you want them to read through your financial statements and figure out the thing that you wrote down on a piece of paper. They're not feeling good. It's Friday. They want to get home. How much time and attention are they going to give you versus how much time and attention are you going to give yourself to do it accurately? What's their knowledge? Have they ever looked at a financial statement? No, you would be shocked. A lot of people at the IRS have no tax knowledge, no formal tax training. They're following the Internal Revenue Manual that they have for their department, which is a giant if-then chart. If this, then that. And that's what they need. That's what they're following. They don't conceptually understand how to read your financial statement. So give the IRS person a break. Do the work yourself. Make it easy for them to say approved, no issue.
Not only that, but don't trust other people to make your transactions. Trust yourself to get things done correctly, so that you can ensure for yourself that you're self-sovereign, self-sufficient, and making sure that what you are getting done is correct. Don't trust other people to do what you should do. Now, yes, you need to trust tax experts to help you understand your taxes, but that doesn't mean that you're not doing work to help them get you to the point where you need to be. Don't trust other people. This is everything we talk about in crypto and in this space, is understanding how you can better yourself, how you can become self-sufficient, and how you can, take control of your life. So why would you want the IRS, and why would you trust them to have your best interest in hand?
But Brendan, you can always trust the government. Come on.
Knock, knock, knock. I'm here from the government. I'm the IRS. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
Just send me your 12-word seed phrases, and I'll make sure your taxes get paid properly.
You send me 1 Bitcoin, I'll send you 2 back.
Yeah. So, Mother, this is our joke in the crypto community, is that the most important thing that you know in the crypto sphere is your private keys, essentially the password to open up your ability to access the blockchain, right? Yes. And so if you give away your keys, then it's obviously that's the only thing that protects you. One of the big topics of discussion going around right now is self-custody. Do people actually own their assets on a blockchain, or do they not own them? Because realistically, at the end of the day, all that I have is a secret password hidden inside my brain that'll move some zeros and ones on some internet thing somewhere, right? I don't actually, the big argument being made is people don't actually own things. They're just the sole proprietor of a piece of information that will allow you to move things around. And so it would be interesting to see the litigation for that go through to the point where like you don't actually own the asset, and therefore it's not like taxable or something like that. That'd be super fun, but I doubt that would ever.
I mean, think about it. You don't own your home. You don't own your piece of land. The government owns that. You basically just, excuse me, you bought it, right? But they still tax you on it. They can still do whatever they want with it. I mean, how many farmers around, at least around here in Minnesota, have been losing a lot of their land because, they want to put a highway. The government wants to put a highway right through it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or on the
corner.
You
don't ever actually own anything, really.
You don't. No, you
You're
will
absolutely
own
right.
nothing and be happy. Bug
Yep.
eaters.
Eminent domain. You gotta love it. Dude, that's a whole can of worms though. We'll go on all night if we start covering
Yeah,
eminent
definitely don't want to
domain.
go that way. But to just kind of top it off with what you were saying there, Will, is you got to think about it this way, right? That same example I was using. The blockchain itself is nothing more than just a bunch of vaults, all right? Completely clear. You can totally see through. And then you have the key to be able to open up one of those vaults. And so, bam, there you go.
Hey,
I'm
can
gonna-
I?
Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, can I jump in and just tell the audience the kind of tax work I do specifically?
That's
Yes,
that's
please.
the next topic of the conversation, because we're winding down here. We got about 20 minutes left. So, Mom, why don't you go ahead and plug the work that you do? If anybody has been reading this Scrolling Chiron this whole time and seeing where they can find you and what you do, why don't you go ahead and let the folks at home know how you can help them solve their problems with the IRS.
Excellent segue. So, if you have a letter from the IRS that you have received that says, "Hey, you owe more tax," or "Hey, we're adjusting your tax return because you didn't report this thing correctly," or any variation thereof, or you haven't filed a tax return for a few years, or maybe you filed your tax return but didn't have any money to pay the IRS. These are all the types of problems that I help people solve. It's tax resolution. That's what I am, a tax resolution specialist. This is I'm a tax law specialist versus accounting versus tax preparation. I know how to prepare a return, but I don't do that anymore for people. It's tax resolution. It's diving into the Internal Revenue Code, using the code to your advantage. It's getting penalties removed if something has happened. I'll give you a quick example. Had a client in the Austin, Texas area, small business, had a partnership, and the partnership failed to file tax returns for multiple years. And so there's a penalty associated to each person in the partnership for each month. And so it added up to about $7,000 for 5 years. So they owed about $35,000 in penalties, the partnership did. But there were extenuating circumstances. So they hired me, they gave me power of attorney, and that's what I need is power of attorney, and they paid my fees. And then I dive in and figure out, okay, what does the IRS say the person owes or the business owes? And then what is the person or the business perspective of what they think they owe or don't owe the IRS? And somewhere in there is the actual reality. And in this particular instance, one of the partners was very gravely ill, and it was the person that did all the administrative work for the partnership that got it to the CPA, so the CPA could prepare the partnership returns. Well, it's not the CPA's job to make sure that you're giving them the information. You have to take ownership of that and get it to the CPA, and that's what Brendan was talking about. And everybody else here, take ownership for yourself. So anyway, I went into the Internal Revenue Code, and because I know this exists, and there were extenuating circumstances called reasonable cause. So I cited reasonable cause, and I negotiated with the IRS, and I said, look, here's all the facts and circumstances that went into why this person or this business partnership didn't get the returns in. Long story short, they waived $35,000 of penalties and all the interest that was associated with those penalties, which was about $40,000 total. So I was able to remove that, and they didn't have to pay it. That's tax resolution. That's what I can help people with. If you're behind and you have a lien, the IRS files a lien on you. That's terrible. Now you've got a lien on your house or wherever it is that you're living. There's a lien associated with that. Now what do you do? It's hard to get a lien removed. And so that's some of the work I do, lien removal or a wage garnishment, or you owe $75,000 because you're self-employed and you don't have the money to pay and you could, barely make the mortgage payment. And here the IRS is saying, oh, you got to pay us $1,000 every month. No. Maybe not. Maybe you don't pay the IRS anything. The tax debt is still there, but you don't have to pay. And this is a negotiation strategy that I can work for you. So those are some of the things that I do as a tax resolution specialist, and I can help you. If you get a letter, drop onto my calendar. I think we'll put the link in there, a 30-minute strategy session for you. Come talk to me. Happy to help you out, have a little conversation. You may or may not actually need my services. but I can point you in the right direction. So that's what I can do for you.
I can't imagine some of the people that must come into your office. Because I know you say it in the book and you've even said it here on stream and everything, but it's just the face palm moments that it just kind of resonates from you. I'm pretty sure you've gotten a lot of them.
Yeah. It's like, oh, why did you do this? And all the money passed through your fingertips that you needed. And so we work on systems and processes. A lot of my tax resolution clients become my coaching clients. It's a natural segue because they're trying to figure out how to run their business or their personal life with their money and get stuff done. So then we work on
So what's the what would you say is probably one of the most ridiculous ones that you can remember that just walked through the door and you're like, oh my God, are you kidding me? How did you do this?
Well, the recent one of the $187,000 that is owed from this giant sale, this, I think they were oil futures. She was in the market and she didn't set any money aside to pay taxes. It's like, wow, how could you be that unaware? A smart, educated person that just didn't know. It's like, so things like that. That was a big one. So
that would drive me up a wall. I'm not going to lie. Just seeing people doing that type of thing. It's like, why?
Yeah, but Nate, would it drive you up a wall if you're getting paid to fix your situation?
Hey, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, tax resolution is not cheap. So do this stuff here in this book. This is $7.99 on Amazon.
Can you plug the book again? I know Friday we did the book stream, but can you just plug that one more time?
Yeah, these things. We're kind of joking about it, but they really will help you if you practice the things that I lay out in this book. You will be way ahead.
If you do the thing and you do it right, it just works.
How about that?
Love it.
Yeah.
I'm finding the link in the description and that's a giant, hang on. I'm trying to find a way to copy the link real quick. So, well, you guys can click the link
Telegram.
down below.
We're going to put the link in our Telegram. If you're not in our Telegram, you should be.
There you go. Yeah, we'll take this opportunity.
The link is in the description. It's
the
link 3 or 4 sentences down, basically. I can grab it real quick and drop it in the chat.
Yeah, go ahead and do that if you would, please. And then while we're doing that, I want to also say, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to our what is this? A YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Join our Telegram. All the links below. If you want to follow us all on social media, if you want to hang out with us anywhere, if you want to buy my mother's book or do coaching, we've dropped those descriptions in the description below. It's also been on this. There's even, you can see her number right there. Oh, it just scrolled away on the Chiron. But if you wait for it to roll around again, you can give her a call and you can get a consultation. And you can either get the coaching or you can get the representation. Or hell, maybe you can get both. You did talk about the difference between the coaching and the representation there, correct, Mother?
Yeah, representation is strictly tax work.
Yeah.
Coaching can involve tax stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that I myself am going to purchase a physical copy of the book because, as I said, I prefer to have kind of a little checklist type of thing going on, and this book works absolutely amazing for that. So I do recommend getting at least a physical copy as well. We originally bought the audio version, which, by the way, you did a great job narrating that. I did quite enjoy it. You could sense a lot of your personality through it, so I thought it was fantastic.
Thanks. It was fun. I'll tell you a secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. I recorded that book in my master bedroom closet.
Hey, that looks like a certain member of the DGen Roundtable who's always screaming the same
Great
place.
Acoustics. It was my sound. I hired an audio engineer. We're like going all over the house. It's like the bedroom closet.
My closet is my workout room. My closet, I got like I don't know, 150 square foot walk-in closet.
Master of
my
hats.
bedroom, one or the other.
It's a nice
like 5x5 foot closet. Great acoustics. Anyway, and I will say one other thing. If you buy my book, I would. I'm appreciative of that for sure. But if you were to leave a review on Amazon, those are gold. They're very difficult to get, I have discovered. And so your review on Amazon would be great.
Yes, that would be.
Yes, for sure. I got to go do that still.
I gotta say it's because so I'm obviously down here in your house right now, and you have clients from time to time when I'm visiting, and it's quite funny. You can tell when you're having a good time with a client who like understands the thing that you're talking about, and it just moves quick, fast, and in a hurry. And then sometimes it's like, because like a lot of your the work that you do with TaxHawk, it's all like chats, so it's all computer stuff, and it's all just like there's no verbal talking with the clients. It's all just like typing answers and things, and it's just like I'm chilling out in the living room or in the in the kitchen. I hear it's I've told you this 3 times already, and they're just like you're going crazy. And oh man, you have a lot more patience than I do. But like I imagine that your clients and things you get on your own personal business, they get a much higher a much better version of communication than just like chatting in a little text box on a website
Absolutely.
Somewhere. You get to do you do video calls and stuff and phone calls? How do you
Zoom? Yeah, a lot of my clients I meet via Zoom because they're all my enrolled agent status allows me to help anybody in the 50 states. Any US based taxpayer. I mean, I could help someone that's in Germany or Australia if they have an IRS problem.
No kidding.
So it's a federal license, my enrolled agent credential.
Well, that is excellent. All right. Well, ladies and germs, we are coming up on the 10-minute mark left, so we're going to go ahead and start the wrap up. We just dropped a whole bunch of links for you down in the channels and down in the chats and everything, Mother. But if you could like sum it up all real quick, where can the people find you? You haven't plugged the radio show. I don't know if you still do the radio thing once a month.
Yes, I do have a radio show once in a month. You can go to KMIL.com and click on the listen live. I have a half-hour segment of a 3-hour show on the second Saturday of the month. And I talk about, it's Dollars and Cents with Kristine. I talk about tax tips and personal finance issues. So you can listen to me live there, and you can actually call in and ask me a question. I'm on LinkedIn primarily. I do have my YouTube channel that I'm very slowly dropping videos in, and that's Dollars and Cents with Kristine. Find me on LinkedIn. You can text me or call me at 737-234-0196, and that's been scrolling on the screen. Oh, there goes right now.
It's not 86754-309.
No.
Why, Brennan? Why?
Or email Kristine at KristineStevensonEA.com, and we'll drop the link to my calendar. Go get a free strategy session. Drop in and let's have a conversation for 30 minutes. It can be about whatever. It doesn't have to be taxes, but generally it's money oriented.
This is absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Mother, for joining us. This has been
Thank you. I appreciate being here. And you guys are a really
absolutely
awesome group. I mean, you know your stuff.
Thank you. We know some things. We've been around the block. We're honestly a lot of the time we're just very surprised to see the kind of things that we can pull out of our heads just on the fly while we're streaming. Brendan, where can the folks find you? What are you up to? What's going on in your future? And do your plugs.
Well, the first thing I want to say is I hung out with Bradley from the DGen Roundtable community today, and that was a great time. Anytime someone's in Miami, if they don't hit me up, I'm going to be disappointed because I want to hang out with the community. I want to see the people. I want to meet the people. Every person that I've met in this community has been rock solid. People are going places, and I'm really glad and happy. And, being around all you people really pushed me to be a better person, really pushed me to be more ambitious and really try to work as hard as I can. And that's why this group was started. And honestly, holding me accountable is great. This week, I'm going to be throwing out a few things. I'm going to be putting together a Cardano video on how to stake on Cardano, but you don't have to give up your coins. They stay in your wallet. So that's really a great thing. If you're anyone that has Cardano, this is going to be a must-watch video. There's videos out there that's going to be similar, but there's been a lot of people in the chat that don't understand how to do that and feel like they have to give their coins to an exchange to be able to stake, but that's not the case. With Cardano, it's very easy to delegate your tokens and get somewhere between 3 and 4% return on your investment without having to give up your keys or your coins. Because if you give up your keys and you give up your coins, they're not yours. So that'll be coming out. Also, I wrote some haikus recently in regards to crypto, and I might be bringing those haikus onto the show in the future. And in fact, should I just throw one out right now?
Yeah, do it.
Do it, man. Do it.
Kristine, how do you feel about
We had a
haiku?
bunch of those that popping in on our chat. Do it.
All right, I'm gonna give a quick haiku here.
All right, slam poetry.
This is called Conviction. Okay. Red candles I bought. FUD raged like a forest fire. Green danced in my dreams. So FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt. It's a big term in crypto. Anytime that there's negative sentiments that might not be true, we call it FUD. But I got more and more haikus coming, so stick around. I gotta run. This is an unbelievable show, Kristine. You're very smart, very talented, and we really appreciate you jumping on because
Thank you. I really appreciate
time
being
is
here.
important.
All righty.
Thanks a bunch, Brendan.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Brendan. Take off whenever you need to, bro. Nate, what are you up to, bro? What's going on with you?
I had three, like I said at the beginning, I had three different subjects from my Ascending Man show, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm really into AI right now, especially with Q-Star having been confirmed, which is artificial general intelligence, AGI, which is actual artificial intelligence, actual consciousness. And it has been confirmed finally, and so now we have a conscious robot out there, legitimately conscious, so which is fun. So I'm definitely going to be talking about that, kind of what the future is going to be. That'll be on Tuesday, my show as always. But at the same time, yeah, again, thank you very much for coming on, Kristine. We appreciate this. I find it really funny because a lot of our guys in the chats right now, they're all like, oh, you're going to be so busy this time next year because we're all going to be taking profits. We're going to be like, okay, what are we going to do with all these profits now? So you might get an influx of calls for the starting maybe right around.
Here's the quick
September.
answer. Report them.
Yeah, just report them. Report them, everybody. You heard it here first. See, that's going to be the issue too. Is like if anybody in our channel is not reporting this stuff and being complete idiots, come on, you're all smarter than that. We got a good group here. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off along with everybody else here. And yeah, does the missus have anything to say?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I should judge him by that face. Wow. No, I just want to say thank you for coming on. It's been great chatting with you. I wanted to ask more questions about actually publishing a book, but you kind of went into it at the beginning, so I really didn't even have to ask. You just jumped straight into that, so I really appreciate that info. Yeah, I don't really have anything going on. I'm not the type to like stream individually, so nobody needs to worry about that. But I'm helping the guys in the background with whatever we need, and we got some exciting stuff coming up, so definitely stay tuned. And we can't wait to see you guys there.
Excellent. All right. And you guys can find me at linktree/Will Stevenson. And if you wish to join our Telegram and you haven't clicked the link below, or you haven't found the QR code that I put that out in the ether space at some point. But one of my goals here eventually is to get it posted up on stream, so you could just take your phone and screenshot it while the stream is playing. That'll happen eventually. Make sure you guys join our Telegram. Like, subscribe, comment, bitch, moan, complain. Go out and make your life better. Do good things. If you're a Hexican and you want to meet other Hexicans, then what you need to do is you need to go to bit.ly/hex_meetup_template, and that will take you to an internet Excel spreadsheet. What you can do then is you put in your contact information, you put in your name, and you put in what location you are at on the globe, whether it's city, state, country, whatever, however far you want to dox yourself. If you want to meet up with other cool crypto people, we've got I want to say it's like 15 or 20 people in there right now. I've got quite a few people down here in Texas that I got to meet. Rodzim is one of them. Hang on. I've just looked up the other dude's name, Ramon. I'm coming for you guys. Rodzim and Ramon, you guys are nearby where I'm at right now, so I'm going to come hang out with y'all. But if you guys are Hexicans, or if you're just cryptocurrency people in general and you want to meet up with other like-minded cryptocurrency people, you can go to that website, or you can follow that link, and it'll take you to an open to edit Excel spreadsheet. At some point, I'm going to switch to a Telegram group that will be organized by locations and things and everything. Haven't got around to it yet, but that's what's going on with me in the near future. Other than that,
I'll be the only guy from Minnesota, like the only guy in the Minnesota channel.
We got, there's a couple people in Texas. We got, you know, some folks in New Zealand. We got folks in Australia. We got folks all over the place, man. Dudes up in London. Like it's crazy. I would love to see that list grow and people reach out and start having super cool meetups. I know that the Hex meetup space is crazy, and I'm trying to dive into what Matty Allen does and kind of like what a Wild SJ does with their Hex meetups and things all over the place. I know BPK Das Bomb does a lot of stuff over in Germany. So like there's a lot of crypto dudes meeting up all over the place, man. So just like reach out, say hi to people. Oh yeah. And then Ricky Paul down in New Zealand, our resident Kiwi. So yeah,
he's our favorite Kiwi.
For sure. That is all I got going on. Mrs. McGettit, why don't you go ahead and get that end credit music ready to rock and roll? I want to thank all of you folks here that are watching us live. And I want to thank all you folks catching us on the replay. And with that, I need you guys to degen responsibly.
And get in the Telegram or be poor.
Oh, yeah, that too. Hit those end credits.